RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD. You want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Tuesday, May 7th. We'll be taking a look at tonight's 8-game MLB DFS slate on DraftKings, as well as probably talk about some props, some pick 'em, whatever you want to talk about. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. Give me those thummy thumbs. I will wave my thumbs at you until you press the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. You always know when we go live. Remember, later today, Grinders Live, 5 p.m. Eastern, followed directly after by Crunch Time. You'll get your weather updates then from Kevin Roth. So they'll be taking care of you in more detail about the slate. But we'll be taking a first look here in the morning with Tim Buell, a.k.a. Tasteful Tides. I don't know if you saw yesterday's show, Tim, but I'm retiring from the diss track game.
Why retire? I thought it was pretty solid. I don't think it was that bad.
I think the lyrics, ChatGPT. I don't know. After a while, it just gets repetitive.
It's true. I think you should make it a once a week thing. Like, every Monday with McCool, you could do a little rap for us to start the week.
I don't think that's going to get extra. I don't think that's going to get more likes. For some reason, I don't think so.
All right.
What's going on in the hockey playoffs? Are you thrilled that the Maple Leafs are out again?
I am thrilled. I'm kind of a Bruins fan, so I was happy to see that. I also bet Bruins to win that series, so that was quite the sweat for me, because considering they were up 3-1, and then they blew the next two games, so I had to sweat that one pretty hard. But yeah, I still have, I did bet the Avalanche to win the Cup, and I bet the Avalanche to beat the Stars in this series coming up here. So they're still in it, so that's good. The only bad bet that I made is I bet the Lightning to beat the Panthers, which was a disaster of a pick.
Well, that's why you make it up. I mean, you don't have to. The goal isn't to win them all, right?
Right.
The goal is to just win more than you should, right?
That's right.
Right. I bet 100 props a day, and I know I'm not going 100-0, right? Right. Especially with some of them being like plus 150, plus 175, plus 200. It's like, dude, if I get half of these right, I'm making money today. So there you go. That's all you need.
Yep.
So today's 8-game MLB slate. We got a little bit of weather, maybe possibility, probably not so much. We got some teams with decent totals. We obviously have a Coors game, right? The Colorado Rockies are bad enough. The Rockies have never been that great of a team. But we're seeing consistently that the Rockies themselves don't even get a 5 implied run total when they're playing in Colorado. That's how bad they are. We're used to seeing it's the visiting team has a 6.2 total, and the Rockies have 5.5, and it's and the Rockies would still be one of the highest team totals on the slate because they're playing in Coors. Now it's their total's 4.64, and half the other teams on the slate beat that out. The Giants are coming in there. We got also Atlanta with a 5 total, implied team total. The Dodgers. I mean, the teams that you would expect, the top offensive, the teams with probably expensive salaries. And then also, the thing that I noticed as far as the bat projections, because the bat is typically a little bit more sensitive to weather, is my first thoughts on the slate were clearly the two best pitchers are Yamamoto and Imanaga, right? Just from a upside perspective. And then I look
from
at
a raw point,
doesn't project well at all. And then I look at the stacks page, and the highest raw point stack is the Padres. And I go, what is going on today? And then I go to the weather page, and it's yellow-green, brief late start as possible, but the game will play likely uninterrupted once it starts. Winds out to dead center at 10 miles an hour.
Pull up Weather Edge. Look at that sample size. Pull up Weather Edge.
Okay, let me go to Weather Edge. This is for premium members. Obviously, you could always get the weather report. That's free here at RotoGrinders. But if you're a premium member,
let's go behind the paywall for just a second. Look how big this sample is.
Okay,
for
where are we
for
going? Where are we going? Where are we going?
yeah.
Where are we going? Where's Wrigley? Holy, whoa, okay.
And look at
155 games.
look at that sample. The game total on that is 8.5. I've already bet the over.
Right. I
Um,
mean, like the implied team total on the Padres is like 4.21. And I'm like, why are the Padres projecting so well? This is probably the reason. The thing is, with with these types of games, with all of these types of conditions, I consider cores to be a similar condition. It's a ballpark condition. So,
right.
like Wrigley wind, obviously, wind affects Wrigley more than any of the ballpark. The thing is, you have to hit the ball in the air, right? And you have to hit the ball decently hard. So, like, all to me, I view that something like this as it just increases the variance of the game. And obviously, in GPPs, we want large amounts of variance. We want, hey, if these teams hit the ball in the air, I mean, we could see 5 or 6 home runs this game. But if they don't hit the ball in the air, don't be shocked if it's 3-1. I mean, like the Wrigley win doesn't do anything to ground balls or when players strike out. Like it doesn't. It only affects like, oh, a fly ball that would normally be out 20 feet from the wall is now over the wall, right? That's basically the difference. And then Colorado is like the opposite of that. Like Colorado, you don't go there for home runs. You go there for like if BABIP is not in your if the BABIP is not in the pitcher's favor, like boy, that outfield is large as hell. Like a lot of doubles, a lot of triples, a lot of bloop singles, but you still have to hit the ball, right?
And it represses strikeouts too.
Right.
Yeah.
So like those are the benefits of those ballpark conditions. So like I wouldn't be shocked today if Shota Imanaga goes out and strikes 10 guys out. I mean, like it's like that's well within the range of outcomes. He could also give up 3 home runs in the process. I mean, like face these like Wrigley wind, and it's not that big of a wind. Like 10 miles an hour isn't that much. It's not 20. 20, yeah, his projection would be in the gutter if it was 20 miles an hour blowing out the center. But do you think Shota and like, dude, the Padres are the bane of my existence. I mean, going back to last year, the Padres should be better, but they're not. Are you willing? I mean, we'll talk about the chalk, like Yamamoto and Ober, but in general, would you be more willing, even though bad projections have it low, to pay a 10-3 tag on Imanaga against the Padres, or being that he's going to be low owned? Or do you think that the Padres end up being low owned because people wouldn't want to attack Shota Imanaga? And they're obviously projected to be in a situation where even though their team total right now is low, that get enough fly balls and they could easily go over that total.
Yeah, I have absolutely no interest in Imanaga in this matchup. The Padres strike out at an incredibly low rate against left-handed bats. So I think he has something like a 4.5 K prop. Yeah, it's a 4.5 K prop for over 10K on DK with a humongous sample size in Wrigley that promotes home runs and hurts ERA to that degree. I don't really care if he's going to be low owned or not. I really don't have any interest in him at all.
Also, this Padres lineup with Arias there now, I mean, their strikeout rate goes down even lower.
Right.
Even though Arias is a lefty. I mean, he's the quintessential person that I never play in DFS because he'll like, 10 point. I mean, rarely strikes out, rarely gets home runs, right? He just kind of, I'll go 2 for 5 just every game with 2 singles and a run scored. And yeah, I'm much more inclined to play the Padres today because I mean, taking a look at our ownership, it seems like, although you're like, well, you don't want to take Imanaga against the Padres. Machado, all these righties, like Tatis is 5K, right? Machado's 4,500. You got Profar, 3,900. Bogarts, who is not doing all that well, but he fills a second base position. Camposano is 3,400. They're the away team, so you're guaranteed ninth inning at bats. So I don't mind the bottom of the order so much. If you tell me that, the most owned guy on the stack is going to be Tatis at 14%, and everyone else is going to be single digit on an 8-game slate, I think people are going to avoid. They can go, well, I don't want to play Imanaga, but I'm not going to play the Padres against him. The bad projections would say that the Padres are literally the top median projected stack of the entire slate.
I hope that's the case, Blender. I kind of give you a little pushback. I think that people are so much sharper now about paying attention to Wrigley Wind, and they're going to see that weather edge stuff. I hope they come in low owned because they are by far, well, I wouldn't say by far, but they are my favorite stack on the board. And the thing about Araya is, like, he isn't necessarily a DFS asset, but he is a tough first out. He strikes out 12% of the time against lefties. He walks, and he only walks 4.4% of the time. Like, he's the guy who's going to be putting the ball in play. Yes, he only has an 074 ISO, but he's a very, very difficult first out, and he drives up pitch counts. So I think that's a really, really great real life trade for San Diego. And yes, I'm not going to be playing him in DFS, but I love guys like Tatis, Machado, Profar, the guys that you mentioned. I think they're absolutely fantastic, an absolutely fantastic stack today.
And they fill all the spots in your lineup. Like that's Kim at shortstop. And they're not expensive. And if you're going to play Yamamoto, Ober, like you could, you could play this stack no problem. It's not cheap, but it's not expensive, right? Compared to the Braves or the Dodgers, you're not going to be able to play Yamamoto over. Maybe you can. You have to squeeze some stuff in. But are those clearly the two best pitching players on the slate? Yamamoto at 10.1K against Miami at home, and Ober against Seattle at home at 7,600.
Yes.
To me, it gets like after that. Ober's obviously 7,600. So, like, if Ober was like 9,500, that'd be a little different story. But even then, he's like, the bat has him as the second highest raw projected pitcher on the slate. Then after him would be Ronaldo Lopez, who's 9,700 against Boston, which I don't mind that. Like, I don't mind Seth Lugo, I guess, against Milwaukee, although.
No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. No.
Do you want to play Kyle Harrison at 6,400 in Colorado against Colorado?
So I'm glad that you brought up Kyle Harrison, and of course we got to talk about the other side of this Wrigley game too. But I'm glad you brought up Kyle Harrison because Kyle Harrison's $6,400. He's got a 5.5 K prop. This guy is a top prospect, and I understand that it's cores. The problem that I'm seeing with Harrison, at least in our early runs, is ownership. Like, he is. I don't know if I want to play chalk Kyle Harrison. Like, he's going to be
that owned, though.
Well, that's the thing. Our initial runs seemed quite high to me, but then I looked at his K prop and his price, and I'm like, well, maybe. And I know that Colorado's terrible. I'm hoping to see it come down, Blender, because if it does come down, I could see myself rostering him. But if it stays elevated all day, I don't think I want to play a chalky Kyle Harrison.
I just think a lot of people naturally don't like playing pitchers in cores regardless.
Right.
Of what it is.
No. Right.
Truthfully, I'd rather play Kyle Harrison at that ownership versus Seth Lugo at that ownership. We have them very similar. Luis Gil at 8,300 against Houston. I'd rather not do that. Right?
Well, he's a lot more expensive.
Harrison is at 6,400. Like, you could fit anything you want. I mean, imagine playing a lineup that's Ober and Harrison.
That's
That's
what
how
I'm
you get
thinking.
that Brave stack. That's how you get the Dodgers stack.
Right.
Do you think Yamamoto though is a priority? He in the bat, he is the highest raw point pitching projection, median projection, by 4 points at
Yeah, it's
21.
not.
At 92 pitches, even against Miami, it's hard for me unless you want a full stack, the Dodgers or the Braves. Like, I mean, I'm going to be playing like 3 or 4 lineups tonight, right? I play these like mid single entry, 3 max, mid size fields. Uh, it's hard for me not to just like play Yamamoto in all 3 of my lineups.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't playing Yamamoto tonight. Like I'm playing in the 250 and the 121. Like Yamamoto's going to be my SV1. That's clear and obvious. I'm not, but I mean, in the $15 like 150 max, I love to get to lineups with Harrison and Ober or something like that, and stack the Dodgers or stack Atlanta. I don't play those contests, but I think if I were, maybe I'd go a little lighter on Yamamoto and focus on some of this cheaper pitching and get to some of these really, really premium bats.
There are any other pitchers that are on your radar? I mean, like Verlander's there at 9K against the Yankees, and I mean he's not Verlander. I mean he's fine, but targeting pitchers in Yankee Stadium is not something that I normally do, right? Especially if his strikeout rate is not going to be as high as it used to be. That's a ballpark you don't want balls put in play in as much,
Right.
especially if you're a fly ball pitcher. And then I look down and I go, I mean, he got like Hancock, Rea, Crawford, Buto, Edward Cabrera against the Dodgers. I mean, you have Mikolas there against the Mets at 6K.
Not doing that.
I don't know. I don't know about you.
I'm not doing that.
Mikolas is the type of pitcher where if there's a slate where you just need to have Mikolas, then I just lose. Like it doesn't happen often enough for me.
Right. When does that ever happen? I mean, I see in lineup HQ, Dave Potts has tagged Seth Lugo, which terrifies me because Dave is so sharp. But I mean, I'm not buying it. I mean, he's had 2 really, really great starts back to back, but he still only has, I think, only a 16% K rate on the entire year, even with those 2 humongous games. So I'm not on board with that. Obviously, Cheese is way sharper than I am. If you want to follow him, go for it.
I mean, Seth Lugo still projects pretty well. I mean, like he's not off the board. He's
not. He's viable, absolutely. I also think Ronaldo Lopez is viable if you want to take some shares away from Yamamoto. I think Lopez is viable also.
Or you could try to play a Yamamoto Lopez lineup with kind of like a vomit stack, but I think in general, as I've said multiple times on this show, that used to be like the way, right? And now there's just not you take a look at this slate and you go, I'm going to play a vomit stack that maybe only scores 4 or 5 runs, but I'm able to get 35 points each out of Yamamoto and Ronaldo Lopez. Like that's not. This isn't DeGrom and Strider. This isn't like those. We don't have those high-end pitchers at all anymore.
Right.
So like
we just don't have elite
Yamamoto's
arms.
The highest raw point projected pitcher, but talent-wise, like if other pitchers outscore Yamamoto, I'm not like shocked or anything, right? I mean, like he's not God, right? No. He's just the best pitcher on this slate.
Right.
But there's so much different between when Spencer Strider's 12-5 and his strikeout prop is 9.5, right? And he's looking at, an average of 35 fantasy points. Like that's the time where you need the vomit stacks. So like, I don't know. Are there any other pitchers that you'd even consider?
That would honestly be it. I think if I was making 150, I'd be keeping an extremely tight pitching pool on this slate.
Batter wise, okay. So we talked about San Diego, based on, I mean, if you go by the betting markets, and I'm a big fan of looking at, especially sides and totals tend to be more efficient. I mean, the betting market is 8.5 total. Maybe this wind isn't all that cracked up to be, because we noticed that when Wrigley has win games, these totals will be 10.5, 11. We've seen, 8.5. Are they just rating the pitchers too? I mean, I tend to go along with it. I know the bat projections love the Padres, but the team that has the higher implied run total is actually on the other side of the game.
Yeah, I like the other side of the game better when it comes to bats, just because Randy Vasquez is not somebody that we need to be intimidated by. He does not have a high K rate. He has pretty bad control problems. Over 10% walk rate last season, kind of hovering around that same amount this season. Not a good K percentage last year or this year. I guess he was decent. He had some decent K rates against righties, I guess, last year. Hasn't shown the same ability in a small sample this season. But I prefer the Mike Tauchman, Ian Happ, Michael Bush, these lefties quite a bit. So you're right. I mean, Vegas totals are extremely efficient, and I may have fallen into a trap, but this is a trap that I'm willing to fall into. Like I said, I've already bet the over. I bet it well before I got on the show. I got it at 8.5 on DK. I'm gonna fall right into the trap, Blender.
But it looks like that the Cubs are going to be fairly chalky.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the RotoGrinders projections, I mean, we go into cores. Obviously, you got the Giants, right? We got the Rockies, because obviously you got the Rockies. The Giants aren't cheap. I mean, they're the bottom of the lineup, I guess, is cheap for cores. I mean, do you want to play like a 10% owned Nick Ahmed at 3,200, or
Not
Blake
really.
Sobel at 3,500, or any of these lefties that could easily come out of it? Like, you got Jung Ho Lee, you got Lamont Wade, you got Michael Conforto, you got Mike Yastrzemski. Obviously, all of them aren't coming out for like Austin Slaters and whatever, the righties. But I'm always concerned, playing the lefties for the Giants of all the teams, because they do get pinch hit for often.
Yeah.
They're not, I mean, Chapman's 5,200, Conforto's 5,100, Flores is 4,600, Estrada's 4,200. They seem to be about as owned as the Cubs. They have a higher implied run total. The Rockies are in the single digits. They're going to be much less owned. I don't know about you, but like if you gave me the choice between two teams, like the Giants or the Cubs at equal ownership, and I'm still able to play Yamamoto and Ober, I mean, wouldn't I rather just take the team that's facing Dakota Hudson, who can't strike out? I mean, like, the whole point of what I was saying before about in Wrigley with the wind, assuming that the wind matters, you still need to hit the ball in the air, right? Then they're facing, like, I get your Vasquez thing. Is like Vasquez isn't really, I mean, he's an average pitcher, right? But the Cubs probably going to put the bat on the ball. So I'm for the Cubs, but the Giants, I mean, Dakota Hudson's strikeout prop is 2.5. I mean, like Dakota Hudson is the epitome of BABIP, of like, you don't play him, you never play him as in DFS because he doesn't strike out enough people. But if you hit the ball directly at fielders, like, Hudson will have a great 6-inning outing. But it's Colorado, so like the field is just like 40% bigger. So I'm not as concerned about I'm just striking out or anything. It just feels like I'd much rather, given the same ownership, I'd rather play the Giants in cores against the guy that just gives up contact, and that's all you're really looking for in Colorado. You're not looking for home runs, like, so you don't want the power pitcher. You want the guy that just like, here, put it into play, and hopefully we'll get to it. And isn't that what we're looking to target in Colorado?
You got to be real careful though when you're rostering the Giants, because like guys like Lamont Wade and Yaz, they have like 35-40% chance of being pinch hit for. So and same, I think Conforto's pinch hit risk is also pretty high. So you could end up having a 5-man stack that ends up being a 2-man stack by the end of the game. That's the only argument against that. Of course, in a vacuum, I would rather attack Dakota Hudson than Vasquez, but I am concerned at the aggressiveness that the Giants pinch hit. So
play all the righties then. So why not we just go?
You could
Flores, Chapman, Ahmed. There you go. Done.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to play Ahmed. You can play Ahmed if you want.
I mean, he's gonna be fairly chalk. I mean, if you need a punt play at shortstop, I mean, $3,200 guy facing Dakota Hudson in Colorado ain't bad, right?
I guess it's not bad, but it's not a name I'm going to collect.
So what other teams are you looking at right now? I mean, we obviously we're talking about that Padres Cubs game on both sides.
Yep.
We talked about the Coors game, right? And then we got I think like we got the Dodgers and the Braves. But looking at these projections for the Dodgers and the Braves, like the Braves are not going to be all that owned, and it's basically a byproduct of good luck. Good luck. You're not playing Yamamoto in this lineup. I mean, good luck paying up for all these guys.
Right.
Cutter Crawford is not like an awful pitcher, but not a great pitcher. Not necessarily someone I'm like. He's probably towards the upper half of talent on this slate, pitching wise. I mean, the Braves don't even have a 5 total. I mean, but I mean, if you're going to tell me that these guys are going to be around 5% owned each, I mean, it's the Braves for crying out loud.
The
Braves can put up so many runs regardless.
I ran 150 lineups in Sims before we got on the show just to see what it was going to spit out, and I'm getting to the Dodgers the most out of any team by quite a bit, because it wants you. Sims really wants you to pitch Kyle Harrison today.
Okay.
So that gives you savings, right? And so that's going to give you, and then it kind of spreads it out a little bit between guys like Lugo, Yamamoto, guys like, somewhere like split between those two guys, a little bit of Verlander, but it's giving out a lot of Dodgers, because, I think that a lot of people are going to shy away from the Dodgers because we have Coors, because we have a Wrigley win game. So, I mean, if ownership stays, I mean, it's showing. We're showing Ohtani with what 10% ownership, I think.
13.
I
think the Sims are giving you more Dodgers than Braves because the Dodgers just simply project better than the Braves.
Yeah, for sure. That's
from
definitely
a pricing
true.
Standpoint, they're not all that dissimilar pricing wise because there's no one. I mean, the thing about the Braves lineup is like there's no one. They Kelenic, right? Arcia,
right?
And then everyone else is practically 5K or 5,500. At least on the Dodgers, I mean, yeah, Betts and Ohtani are over 6K. Freeman's 5,600. Will Smith's 5K. Teoscar, I mean, it's kind of similar. I mean, you could always play an Outman, Lux, Pages. I mean, Pages is up to 4K. But these guys have like this 5-man stack is going to project for, 3 or 4 more raw points than the Braves. And I'm assuming that's the reason why the Sims, I could throw this in right now into Sim Labs, which if you're a premium member, you get this. So feel free to sign up for RotoGrinders Premium. I got the combo package, get everything, right? But I use this to build my candidate sets of lineups. But I mean, I could just go large, small field, medium results ranges. Just getting 5-man stack, whatever. I want to focus more on the simulation weight than anything else, and just get a sense. 150 lineups. throw it in here. Based, obviously, it's based on what our projected lineups as of 11 in the morning. So obviously stuff could change. So we take a just look at the exposures on the 150. Oh yeah. Oh wow, you're right. It's like saying Kyle, give me all the Kyle Harrison, right? Kyle Harrison, Yamamoto, Lugo, Ober, Colin Ray, and then it kind of just drops off from there.
He's got a 5.5 K prop at 6,400.
At 60, you're right. I mean,
it makes sense that he's, he project, even the bat where Cardi hates pitchers at Coors. I mean, even at the bat, I think he's SP4 on the bat.
right.
No, he's SP6, but still, that's over. That's really, really strong for the bat who really, really despises pitchers at Coors. So
I think that the benefit of Harrison, if people are queasy about rostering of pitchers in Coors, and I say this all the time when it comes to pitchers, I'd much rather take a pitcher that could strike people out than one that just prevents runs. Because if the one that prevents runs doesn't prevent enough runs, you can't get there's nowhere to go. So let's say Kyle Harrison, you're like, well, I'm scared to play a pitcher in Coors. It's like, what if I told you if Kyle Harrison strikes out 6 guys? Do you feel comfortable now that if he gives up 3 runs that you're still fine at 6,400? Right? Because then he could still get 12 or 15 points for 6,400, and that's perfectly fine, even though he gives up 3 runs. Right? You take Dakota Hudson, if he gives up 3 runs, you're dead. Like he's not getting enough. He's not getting 3 strikeouts to compensate for that. So, like, to me, I don't mind these guys. Like, that's why the Seth Lugos are the ones where I'm scared. When I go, Seth Lugo walks 3 guys and gives up 4 runs, like, I don't know. I don't know if he can get back to even. He doesn't have a high enough strikeout rate, right? Ober's the perfect example the other way around. Ober sometimes can give up 5 runs and also strike out 9 guys. Hopefully he does it in 82 pitches because a lot of times he doesn't go as far. So I don't mind this. I don't mind the Kyle Harrison stuff. But like you said, I don't want to play Kyle Harrison at like 40% ownership.
I don't either. And if he's going to be, these are ownership set for like the $15 tournament. So if he's going to be that high owned in the small dollar,
I don't think he's not going to be 36% owned.
Yeah, but let's say he goes down to like 25 in the 15 into the 15. That means he's going to be like 40 in the single entry stuff, Blender. It's always higher.
Right.
So, that sketches me out a little bit too if I want to put him in my single entry or my 4-max lineup too. It's tough because I have a lot of interest in him, but I just don't want to play him as chalk.
Also, SimLabs is showing a lot of Mariners against Ober. I'm assuming due to leverage.
That's just leverage. That's just leverage because I think we have Ober as the highest owned pitcher on the slate. Yeah, we do.
Right. I don't mind that. I don't mind attacking Ober whatsoever.
So, I don't mind. I don't know if I would go full stack Seattle, but Seattle's got enough power where I really would not mind getting to like a 3-man or a couple one-offs here and there. I don't know if I would 5-man them, but definitely
they're
don't.
Cheap enough. Polanco, you got Josh Rojas, Polanco, Haniger is at 3,600. Julio Rodriguez is obviously most expensive at 4,800. Get a cheap Garver, a catcher or something. I don't mind the Mariners, but I'd be more inclined to play Mariners the more and more Ober is owned. Like that to me, that would be the differentiating type of thing of like we take a look. The bat projections have Ober at 37% owned. Like if he's going to be 40% owned, I'd much rather take a shot on. I'd much rather play a Yamamoto Harrison lineup with Mariners than play a Yamamoto Ober lineup and then try to go off the board somewhere on stack wise because you're not going to be able to pay up for the Dodgers.
Right.
Just that, like, would you rather? Let's say, okay, here's the question, Tim. if we made it so that if Ober and Harrison were the same ownership, whatever ownership they both are, they're both 30% owned. Would you rather play Ober and stack the Rockies against Harrison, or would you rather play Harrison and stack the Mariners against Ober? Assuming the ownership is about equal, but we also have to assume that Colorado against Harrison, Colorado's ownership is going to be higher than the Mariners. I would guess by a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I would say that Colorado's ownership would probably be a little bit higher, just because there's that natural bias to play hitters and cores. I think I would rather just pitch Ober, just because Seattle strikes out so much. So
you'd rather play Yamamoto, Ober, and a Colorado stack than
Yeah, I
Yamamoto,
guess.
Harrison, and a Seattle stack.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little bit more contrarian than you. Just by
I understand.
Would you play? How about hey, Lugo? If Lugo's gonna get up to 25% owned, how about playing the Brewers? What are the Brewers doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta look at their projected lineup really quick. I gotta
They got a lot. See they got Tyler. You got Tyler Black batting third.
Yeah.
I mean their lineup.
I can see
their lineup is a little strikeout. Yeah, they have a decent strikeout rate.
I can see how Lugo got up to a 5.5K prop. It's juiced heavily to the under, but still he does have the same strikeout prop as Harrison. He is a little bit more expensive. But yeah, looking at this Milwaukee lineup, it's gonna be interesting to see what the field does with these three pitchers. I think there's going to be I think Ober is going to be the clear number one in terms of ownership, but between Harrison
Yamamoto is going to be.
No, I'm talking about like lower end guys, Blender.
Right,
Not okay. Like between Lugo, Harrison, and Ober. Ober's going to be number one, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens between Lugo and Harrison, because it's just this Brewers lineup is pretty strikeout heavy. I just don't believe in Lugo's kind of like overall K stuff. I mean, he's looked amazing in his last two games, but that's not really who he is. But this Brewers lineup is pretty ugly. So
I mean, it has power.
It has power.
Has power, but it also has a lot of strikeouts.
Correct.
On the other side of this game, according to the current bat projections, the top point per dollar stack on the entire slate, the Kansas City Royals, and they have a 4.7 implied run total. So we're like, they're not that much different than the Braves, than the Dodgers, than the Cubs. I mean, obviously Bobby Witt, 6,100, expensive. Sal Perez, 5K, but I mean, I don't know what's happened to Hunter Renfroe, but I mean, at some point he may do something. You got MJ Melendez, Velasquez, Massey, all these guys. Like the bottom half of the order is not as bad as the Royals used to be, and all these guys are high 2Ks, mid 3Ks.
I would imagine that Michael Massey is going to be very, very popular. He was popular yesterday. He hit a home run. I would imagine that people will go back to him as like a cheap value second baseman. Colin Ray last season got, his hard hit percentage was over 50% to both sides of the plate. This year, in a significantly smaller sample, it's dropped down. But I mean, his K rate is it's nothing. So he is just so mediocre. I don't know if he's just getting lucky with this hard hit percentage. But I have no issue attacking him like Vinny P, who's got a 213 ISO, against right-handed pitchers. I don't have a problem with that. Bobby Witt. I mean, we know that right now, like shortstop is absolutely stacked position. Bobby Witt is incredible. So I've got no issue stacking the Royals at all.
Right. SimLabs doesn't give much of the Royals, but the bat does.
Yep.
Lastly, the team that it does give a bunch of is the Red Sox against Ronaldo Lopez, and I'm willing to. It's these types of things, Tim. I always get into trouble in these types of things, where I look at Sim Labs and I go, a lot of Red Sox, and obviously all these lineups are fine. If you want to decide to not play the Red Sox, they're play any of these lineups. These are all fine. That's the whole point of Sim Labs is it doesn't give you bad lineups, right? They just all have different variances. They all have different ranges of outcomes depending on the field and depending on the constructions of the lineups. So, like, playing the twin stack with the two contrarian pitchers may have a similar ROI as this like chalky lineup, but this lineup wins a lot more, like first place finishes or comes in last. Well, this one gets a lot of top 15 percentages, so you cash more often, but the ROIs end up being kind of equal. That's how you have to kind of view Sim Labs, as like it just doesn't give you bad lineups, but it gives a lot of the Red Sox. And I just look and I go, why on this 8-game slate do I want to play the Red Sox with a 3.62 implied run total against Ronaldo Lopez, who isn't even going to be that owned? Like he may be 12% owned. I mean, like compared to Yamamoto and Ober, like I feel like I'm not getting leverage. I'm playing a team with a run plus lower team total. They're not cheap. I mean, to play Tyler O'Neill and Rafael Devers and like the bottom of the order is cheap, but it also sucks. This is typically where I get into trouble, where I look at Sim Labs and I go, nah, wave, right? I play what one of the other liners, which is perfectly fine, and then the Red Sox go out and score like 9 runs in 3 innings against Ronaldo Lopez, and I go, what did Sim Labs know that I didn't? That like no one else, because it's not like they're going to be owned. I mean the Red Sox are like 3% owned.
Yeah, right? They're not going to be owned. They're not going to be owned at all.
Do you have any sense of why?
I really don't.
Your head also, like I'm shaking
my
head going,
well, I was looking at that early, and I really don't, Blender. I really don't know why it's Boston showing up at such a high level, other than the fact that they're going to be extremely low owned. But I don't see it. I'm not going to play it. I always root for our projections and our team behind Sim Labs, but I'm not going to be playing Boston today.
It'd be so much more understandable if Ronaldo Lopez was like 35% owned and be like, okay, I could see how that leverage situation, but it's like he's not even going to be that owned. So like,
these initial runs will change many times throughout the day. So maybe we'll take that Boston with a grain of salt. I'm not really sure, but it's definitely odd to get so much Boston in that initial run.
Anything else that you see on the slate? First look here in the morning.
No, I think we pretty much covered everything that I wanted to talk about.
Are you gonna be on Crunch Time later today or Grinders Live also?
I'm gonna be on Grindr. I'm gonna be on Grinders Live. Grinders Live with Dean and Bobby, the People Show, 5:00 Eastern.
Oh, that's the People Show.
That's the People Show.
Okay. Does Dean force you to do tiers lists on those shows also?
Dean forces us to do a lot of things that we don't want to do. So.
But we'll talk more about the slate. We'll have obviously more, the actual, starting lineups and new weather information, umpire data, everything more that gets added into our projections. Feel free, sign up for Combo Premium. You get everything, right? You get our projections, our ownership, our Cheese's $1 million musings every day. You get all of our MLB stuff, MMA stuff, playoff basketball, UFL, whatever. We got everything for you. You could use all of our projections, all of our statistical projections for prop betting and the pick'em sites. We got a pick'em tool. Typically, we give it out for free on Fridays. So if you want to check it out, wait till Friday. And you can make your DraftKings pick 6 selections based on it. You could, even in the pick'em tool, we got like on Price Picks, they have like cricket stuff. We have cricket projections. So
we do.
You can even look at that if you want. So sign up. We're running a deal right now, $250 off a 6-month subscription to Combo Premium, or you get $40 off your first month if you want, or you could just try it out for 3 days for $19.99. All the information is in the description. Click on the link below. You can follow Tim on Twitter at Tasteful Tides, although he doesn't tweet much there. He's not.
Hit me up. Hit me up on Discord. Hit me up on Discord if you want to get a hold of me.
And you're in the MLB channel. You're in the NHL channel, obviously.
Yeah, and I'm always checking messages too. So if you guys have any questions, hit me up on Discord anytime.
Yeah, you could join that. RotoGrinders.com/Discord. Tomorrow, we'll have an early Grinders Live. I'll be on with Dean. So I'll be here at 11 o'clock. It just won't be RotoGrinders Today. It'll just be Grinders Live. And we'll talk about the afternoon slate that comes up tomorrow morning. Then we're back on Thursday, and then Friday, and then keep on going and going. As the weather gets warm, I'll be here for you Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy props and pick 'em on RotoGrinders Today.